Welcome back, family and friends. We're going to be doing a brisket on today's cook. This was supposed to be for the family barbecue, but we're getting rain, so that kind of got washed out, but I still got to get this meat cooked. So we have a 17-pound brisket. I've already got it trimmed up. I have the fat over here, and I've also got some meat with some fat on it as well that we're going to finish trimming that up later. But when I cook this brisket, I want to cook that fat as well in a separate pan. And that's going to give me some beef talon, okay? And I'm also going to use that in a cook later. Some of that talon, moisten that up, and I'll show you what we're going to do when we get to that point. Speaking of points, let's look at our brisket. This is your point right here, okay? This is your flat. If you take this piece of meat, and you can see right in here, and this fat cap runs all the way back. And we also got a nice fat cap back here. I did a little bit of excess here because I didn't want a whole lot of fat, but we've got easily 1/4 inch of fat back here. Okay? But if you were to peel this back and trim this and get this seasoned underneath, you can make your burn ends from a point. And this is where your point or your burn ends come from, which originated from Kansas City, which is where we're at. So we'll be making, when this is all done, I'm not going to trim this back. I'm going to do that later after the cook, but we will be making burn ends out of this as well. Okay, now let's get to our seasonings. Seasonings, Elk Creek, Texas Rub. Okay, they also make a gold dust. We're going to be using both of these today, and some coarse black pepper. Okay. Also, we're going to be using mustard as a binder. Okay. Again, we've talked about binders before. It's just to keep the seasonings on. It has nothing to do with the flavor profile. You won't even taste the mustard. Okay. And the first thing we're going to go ahead and do first is put on a binder. Okay. Get this mustard put on here. Rub that in. You don't want it dripping off, but you definitely want to cover the meat. Okay. And then, oh yes, first thing we're going to do is we're going to use coarse brown black pepper first. And the reason why we're going to do this first is because if I put on the other seasonings, this is going to fall right off, okay? This coarse black pepper will bounce right off. Also, this is going to attract more smoke, okay, into your meat, and it's going to give it more of a nice bark. So you want to do this one first. And this is a pretty good chunk of meat. So you want to get that in there. Get this glove off. Let's set that here for a moment. Alright, next one we're going to use is some gold dust. Now, I'm not going to put a lot of this on, I'm just going to put a little bit. Okay. And then some Texas Red. Now, these two seasonings, I've already pre-tried these, and I'll tell you, I'm picky about seasonings, and I love these seasonings. I highly recommend them. We picked these up at our local farmer's market down the street. You want to get this all patted in. It's going to take on a really nice color. Okay. Now, I want to go ahead and pat this in. Want to finish off getting the sides and the back here in a few. We're going to smoke this in an applewood smoke. I love applewood. It's a little bit different. Usually I use hickory, but we're going to do the apple because I want to have that nice sweet flavor. It's not going to be real smoky and real tart. It's going to be real nice taste. We're going to set our temperature to 200 degrees. Put it on at 7 o'clock this evening. And I'm not going to touch it again until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And after I get this all put on, and we'll see you back here at 7 o'clock when we get it put on. And we'll talk about some more stuff at that time. See you back. Folks, we're back. I lit this with all the seasonings. I let it sit in the refrigerator for about 5 hours, put it on around 2 o'clock, and we are just about 7 o'clock now. Come on over here. I just put it on. Our temperature is set at 200 degrees. Again, we have the applewood smoke. We're going to smoke this all night until 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to let this up. Now, I'm not worried about this overcooking because at 200 degrees, it will be nowhere near well done or done in the morning when we check this again. What it's going to do is enable more of that bark. So we'll see in the morning when we come back out. I do have it on. The color looks good. I put a little bit of extra seasoning on top after we brought it out of the fridge. I have my fat. It's a little warm. That was a bad mistake. Don't do that again. I have my fat that's here. This is going to render down. And we're going to make some beef tallow, okay? Basically all that is a grease that you use for cooking, or you can use it for ingredients. It's really good. So, brisket's on. We'll see you at 7 o'clock in the morning. We're going to get this thing cooking. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning. Okay guys, we're back. It's about 6:30, quarter to 7 this morning. We're going to check this. We're looking for a temperature of about 165 to 170. We're going to pull this brisket. We're going to wrap it. We're going to increase the temperature by 25 degrees. And we're going to finish her out until about probe tenderness, where I like to say right around 200 degrees. Okay? Let's check this out. Now she is looking really good. Got the moisture coming up. I put some, you can't really see it too well this morning, but I had some pieces of fat up here that kind of dripped down on top of it a little bit overnight. If you look in here, we talked about that liquid gold. You can see that grease inside of there. And that's still a little warm. And that's going to be our meat tallow. Check our temperature here. About 163. Alright, we're about 171 there. We're right at temperature. So, I think we're going to go ahead and pull this. We're going to get her wrapped up and get her put back on so we can have some brisket for lunch today. I think it's going to happen. I'll see you back in a couple minutes. We've been cooking this for roughly almost 12 hours exact. We're at the wrapping stage of this process. Temperature on this is 170, 171. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up in some regular butcher paper. I'm going to show you a process how to do this. We have some apple cider vinegar and water mix. That's all this is. It's not going to do anything. We're just going to wet down this paper. It helps to form a little bit better. Wrap around that brisket. Don't want to soak it down. Boy, take a look at this thing. This is nice. Set that right down here in the middle. Remember I told you about that juice, that talon stuff. We're just going to dump a little bit right on top. Okay. Yeah, I am going to spritz it down a little bit. Now you notice we didn't spritz this down at all last night. We put it on at 7 o'clock and it's 6:45 now in the morning, so almost about 12 hours. We never even looked at this thing. It just stayed in the smoker, the pellet grill, for 12 hours on 200. Just get a light dusting there. I'm gonna move this forward a little bit. And you're gonna use this like you're swaddling a baby. Okay? Get that nice and tight. And then just want to wrap her over. Wrap her up again. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to chowing down on this later. This brisket's going to come out nice and moist. It's going to have a nice taste. Pull that tight. Get that brisket nice and tight in there. There you have it. Folks, I want to go down. We're going to increase the temperature from 200 to 225. And we're looking for that done temperature right around 200. You don't want to go much more than that. Okay? We'll check it back here in a couple hours. It's going to take at least a couple. And we'll see how this brisket looks. We'll see you back in a few. Alright guys, we're back. It's probably, I think it's a little after 9. And we've been smoking this, cooking this for about 14.5 hours. I have probed it a couple of times since the last time we talked, and we were getting close to temperature. Now again, we want to be about 195 to 200 degrees, or probe tender. Now, a lot of you don't know what probe tender is. That probe should go in like butter. I mean, into that meat. It's going to be a little tough going into the paper, but you'll see what I mean when we go to cut this. Let's check temperature, see where we're at. Man, the smell on this is smelling really good. You want to check it in the flat part too. You don't want to check it up here near the point. You want to get in kind of between. And we're looking at about 194. Which to me is, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it to slow down the cooking. And that'll also bring that temperature up just a little bit more to get to about the 195, 198, whereas we want to be, okay? So wrapping this also, we're going to wrap it and put it in a cooler. And we're going to leave that in that cooler for about an hour. Give that meat time to rest. This is very important. Don't peek at it, don't do anything, just take it straight from the wrapper. I wrap it up in a towel and put it in the cooler, close that lid, and we won't talk about it again for an hour. So I want to go ahead and get this process started, and I'll see you back here in an hour. We'll check the tenderness and check how this looks. See you back. Okay guys, we're back and our meat is ready. This brisket sat and rested for an hour. It cooked for 14.5 hours. You can see we have a very nice bark on here. And this is what I like to see. It's like Jell-O. I know that's going to be nice and good. And before we cut into that, we talked about our beef tallow. And this is what this is. You can get yourself a mason jar. I got a coffee filter in there. You can use a paper towel. It's just going to filter this out so we don't get a lot of the crap in there we don't want. And this is the fat. We rendered this fat down. Okay. I've already used some out of here. We had a little bit more. But this stuff is really good. So none of this brisket goes to waste. You see why they call it liquid gold. You can see down in there. We're just going to filter that through. And that'll look kind of nice here in a few minutes. You can see we'll give this a rest for a minute. Put that off to the side. Now, for our star attraction, let's cut into this. Now again, I'm going to make this point over here, burn ends, okay? We're going to cut this right down the middle here. Like butter. See that? Hardly no pressure at all. Take a look at them juices coming out of that. There you have it, folks. Now that's some nice brisket. I've cooked many brisket, and I've burnt a lot of them, so don't get discouraged. Just keep trying. Once you get this down packed, you got it licked. So we're going to cut a slice off here. We're going to try a little taste of that. Look at this brisket, folks. Flimsy. Pulls right apart. Woo! And it's very hot. Let's try a bite. You can see that smoke ring in there too. Check this smoke ring out. See that all the way around there? That's a nice smoke ring. Wow. That is really good. I want you guys to stick around because next video is going to be the burnt ends off of this brisket. Appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate all your support. I appreciate all the likes and shares. I'll see you again here on the next video when we make burnt ends. Thanks for watching Wally's Smoke Shack.